Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review of Daryl Dixon, The Walking Dead, Episode 3, Perry sera toujours Perry, which I believe translates to Paris Will Always Be Paris, which is a song by Maurice Chevalier. There's a lot of music in this episode as far as like references to it. This is directed by Tim Southam, written by David Zabel. In this episode, the group arrives in Paris. Isabel confronts her past while getting closer to Daryl. Caudron seeks help from the leader of a growing nationalist movement called Pouvoir, who I refer to lovingly as Guerrilla Boys, and putting the Union of Hope and Laurent under dangerous scrutiny. This stars Norman Reedus as Daryl Dixon, Clemence Posey as Isabel, Louis Puig Scigluzzi as Laurent, and Laika Blanc Francart as Sylvie. And literally, pardon my French because I don't speak it, so I don't know if any of that um, sounded right. But you know, this episode was not as entertaining as the past few. I think it had some pacing issues. I feel like the story was a little bit all over the place. Some of the more thematics and the ambient of the episode itself was like it felt off. It was weird. Like it was kind of a mixed signal that I was getting. So yeah, this one was. I think it was fine. It was just not as good as the previous ones. I hope this is not a trend. I hope this is not kind of like where the show starts to lose me, because I really like what we were doing before with the exploration of all these places in Paris and everything we're doing so far. So uh, yeah, so let's get into it. I'm gonna get into spoilers as we talk about the episode, so you have been warned. If you haven't seen episode 3, go check it out. Come back and listen here. So the group arrives at for the cold open. The group arrives at a city called Angers, or maybe Angers, looking for the radio. This just thematically is so weird. Like we introduced to this dude. I didn't even write down his name because he's a weirdo who destroyed his radio in order to like have his like disco, like playing his wherever he plays his vinyls, and because to him, I guess music and the preservation of their art is more important than anything in the zombie apocalypse. He put together this band with zombies, like he tied them up to instruments and he's just making them do weird sounds, and he's kind of like the conductor. It's a weird cold open. I think I understand what they were going for as far as like the exploration of like how everyone in the apocalypse will react differently. And there are some people, there's a lot of mentions of art and preservation of the arts here. I think it makes sense, and then being in Paris. But yeah, this one, it was a weird cold open, not for me. Then we hit the credits. The group arrives in Paris. See, that's the other thing. Like that cold open meant nothing because the group still made it into Paris, like without any issues. Um, there are some really interesting shots as far as like we go through like these landmarks in Paris that I would be interested in figuring out how they shot all that stuff, because to me it doesn't feel like a set. So I'd be interested to see how they achieved that effect. Like they probably just threw some CGI on top of these places, but yeah. I like when in media they use covers of popular songs in a different language. In this one, we get to hear a cover of "People Are Strange." It's of course in French. This is a song by The Doors, and little would you know, the group stumbles upon the grave of Jim Morrison, who I guess it happens to be in Paris, who was a member of The Doors. So it's all kind of tied in there. I think it was a neat kind of like Easter egg for anybody that's a fan of The Doors or Jim Morrison or whatever. Um, I guess Daryl would know about The Doors. I don't know. I don't feel like Daryl, like that's, I don't know if that's his type of music, but he knew about it, and I guess they just happened to run into that. So interesting stuff. So they finally encounter the Unity group. They arrive at their destination. They're introduced to everyone, and I really appreciated here in this sequence how, as Laurent was introduced to everyone. They were awaiting his arrival. Like he's treated like a messiah, like the one who's been promised that he was coming. So interesting there how that's playing out in the minds of all these people. We also cut back to the Gorilla Boys, the Pouvoir, experimenting on walkers. So like, are they trying to make them stronger? Are they trying to heal them? Are they the reason we have burners? Like, there's a lot of questions there. Isabel and Daryl go back to her apartment to try to find some stuff to trade with, so Daryl can go back to America. And they run into Amy, who's the little girl that we had met in the previous episode. That was Isabel's neighbor. That was crazy. It was a crazy sequence too because Isabel or Amy's zombie drops a planter, makes a lot of noise, of course. Zombies start coming around. They start jumping from the buildings, like from the apartments. They start falling down, and some of them just like explode on impact because they get squished. Some of them get back up. We see another burner, which I still don't know how the burners thing works. I think we're exploring that a little bit now, which that's part of a good mystery. So that was a good part of the episode. They go into the trading zone and ends up being some kind of nightclub. And as soon as we saw in the recap that we were gonna see Quinn, who was Isabel's boyfriend, I guess, from the flashback. I knew he was gonna come back. I knew he was gonna be in Paris, and he kind of runs this nightclub where people almost feels like they don't even know there's an apocalypse going on. Ultimately, Daryl doesn't agree to Quinn's deal because he wanted something from Isabel, and I guess Daryl didn't want to put her through that. Um, in this nightclub, we get a little bit more of that exploration on the art conservation. We see that they have rescued like paintings and there's like live performances of music. So I don't know. It's interesting that we are spending so much time with the art. But yeah, I knew things were gonna go to shit immediately as soon as Quinn showed up and he was the one in charge of the nightclub. Once again, the Gorilla Boys show up, looking for Daryl. This is where we get our big action sequence. Unfortunately, it was a little bit dark. Like as they kind of, so they go to the nightclub and Quinn tells them where to go. Um, right before this, though, Laurent overhears a conversation between Isabel and Daryl, and he finds out the secret that he is Isabel's nephew, and that was his mom, Sue. So yeah, I don't know how that's gonna play out because now he's also upset, but there's no time because the Pourvoir Gorilla Boys, they show up, they find everything, they start tearing everything apart. But unfortunately, the action was like it was shot in the dark. Of course, there's no like ambient light at night in Paris, so like the scenes were very dark. I just didn't like the way it was lit. Like it also didn't make sense that only one of them would pursue Daryl and everybody else would go around. So yeah, I don't know. It ended up in some kind of cliffhanger where Daryl falls through the roof. So who knows what's gonna happen there? Based on some of the next episode stuff, like we're probably gonna get into more shenanigans. But yeah, this episode was not as good as the first two, unfortunately. I think there's still some good stuff there. I really appreciate them trying to have more commentary on like how people would react in extreme cases in the apocalypse. But like I said, that opening scene did not connect with me either. So I don't know. We'll see what happens next episode. So as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.